Welcome back to another episode. This is the Huddle. This is my solo episode recapping James O'Connor. James is an attorney here in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Barrett McNagny and a partner in that law firm. And we talk about name, image, and likeness. For those of you that know and follow college athletics, name, image, and likeness, better known as NIL, is a big deal right now. What we want to do for you is we want to talk about, how do you think about, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's setting goals, how do you think about name, image, and likeness? What James did on this episode is he connected the dots on how you can bet on yourself, creating a brand for your small business, and something that other people would want to collaborate and follow you and win together. That's really what name, image, and likeness is all about. Let's start a little bit, not to define name, image, and likeness, because I think James does a great job of that. So if you want to know more specifically about name, image, and likeness in today's vernacular, is go back and listen to that episode. He does a great job. But today I'm going to talk about name, image, and likeness as it relates to your small business, or as an entrepreneur, or somebody who's setting goals. So I start off with a couple quotes from some authors that I follow. One author is by the name of Solomon, and he said, "A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold." And I think this quote that Solomon writes about it's the importance of maintaining a good reputation. Inside the context of NIL, it highlights the value of character and integrity over material gain, and also emphasizes how one sees and uses their image in matters that are maybe just bigger than themselves. So think about that. A good name is more desirable than great riches. So name, image, and likeness at face value seems to appear very selfish. But this podcast is about relationships win. It's not about selfish wins. It's not about ego wins. This is about relationships win. So we're going to look at name, image, and likeness through the lens of building relationships and growing your relationships. Another author I like by the name of Matthew, he says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good deeds. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds." And I think this just encourages individuals to use their influence and visibility for good. Using your influence and visibility for good. A lot of people think NIL, name, image, and likeness, is paying athletes, paying student athletes, paying for wins. There is a component to that. I'm not going to make that up. There is a component to that. But I think the overall landscape, the 80-20 rule, 80% of NIL has to do with making sure that you build your brand, but you do it in the way that benefits other people. Serve others is our number one core value at Noll Team Real Estate. And you can still have name, image, and likeness through serving others. Matter of fact, there's another author that I really like. His name is Zig. You may have heard of him. This is Zig Ziglar. "You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." Let me read that again. If you haven't heard that, that's one of Zig's most famous quotes. He says, "You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." I mean, at the heart of this quote talks about the importance of serving others, and it suggests that success is often a byproduct of helping other people get what they want. Name, image, and likeness. We're going to talk about your brand. What is your brand? What's your brand? What's the value of your brand? And a lot of times it comes back to deposits and withdrawals. How many deposits are you making in other people? There's a quid pro quo, right? Do you do this in order to get something, or are you just making sure that generosity is part of your image? I'm going to help enough other people get what they want, and in return, it's going to give me everything that I want. And some of that's material, but most of it's not. We talked about on this episode really the power of NIL and how parents, athletes, and entrepreneurs can thrive. That was the theme of this episode. For those of you watching, I've got my IPF jersey on right now. My old IPFW jersey, now known as Purdue Fort Wayne. I've got my jersey on just so that I can channel some energy here. So my story is, I played basketball, and halfway through my career, our program went Division I. Okay, and I played probably 2.5 seasons of full schedule Division I basketball. Had a great opportunity, but this was kind of when we were an independent. We didn't have a conference. We weren't able to play in a conference tournament at the end of the season. Our last game of the year, we were done. And today, players are getting paid, and name, image, and likeness is a real thing. And I believe the work that I did 20, 25 years ago is creating ripple effects today, and these players are getting paid. And if I can just be bold for a second, if it wasn't for, my generation, I'm not gonna say me, it wasn't because of me. If it wasn't because of what the guys that I grew up and came alongside, our coaches, our athletic directors, our team, if it wasn't for all of us pulling together to move into that Division I class, the program wouldn't be here today. Now, they probably would have used somebody else, and the program may be here today. But the reality was, there are ripple effects that you are creating now that maybe somebody else down the road can benefit. Maybe my kids, the work that I'm doing today. Think about this: if you're a parent, the work I'm doing today is going to help with my kids' name, image, and likeness. Now, they're going to be on their own when they leave the house, when they fly the nest, and they get into a career and into a job. They have their own reputation. They have their own name, image, and likeness. But the ripple effects of what Lindsay and I are creating at home is hopefully going to benefit them in the future. That's our hope. That's our prayer for them. And so, name, image, and likeness is also about what brand are you building for yourself, for your business, but also how are you helping other people build theirs? I think that's part of where we have skin in the game. Name, image, and likeness. From a marketing standpoint, I've got a marketing degree. Not sure how much I use because that's an old, outdated 20 year ago marketing degree. I think the author Solomon and Matthew and Zig Ziglar probably are a master's degree in building relationships and name, image, and likeness in today's world. But really, marketing and branding is about eyeballs. Like, how many eyeballs do you have on you? I would say another way to say this is, how much value are you providing the marketplace? How much value are you providing your family? Your brand, your name, image, and likeness increases in value with the more people you help. That's exactly what Zig was saying. You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. How many of you listening right now, just think about this. Like, don't stop your car, but if you're driving or if you're walking, just stop and think for a second. Are you really giving as much as you possibly can to other people, which then increases your value? Or are you taking? I remember back in the day, Rev Run says, life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. That's always just stuck with me. Life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And it's kind of simple, but NIL, name, image, and likeness is all about eyeballs. Well, how do you get more eyeballs? You add more value. How do you add more value? Well, I believe in some of the work that we've been doing with our team is our brand is the emotional connection we have with our database. I'll say that again. Our brand is the emotional connection we have with our database. There's been a lot of conversations. I remember talking to my father-in-law, asked this question, like what's a brand? How do you build a brand? And there's people out there that help you build brands. There's, people think they're building a brand and they're not. Really, I believe, and through, some of the coaches that I work with, is your brand is the emotional connection you have with your database, with your relationships, with your clients, with your family. That's your brand. If you don't have that emotional connection, do you have a brand? Ask yourself that question. Do I have a brand right now? What is my brand? We all do. If you don't tell somebody what your brand is, if you don't go out and provide value, the market's going to tell you what your brand is. Think about that. Would you rather tell the market what your brand is, or would you rather have the market tell you? And I think that's a proactive or a reactive approach. So NIL is all about the value of your brand, the value of your name, your image, and your likeness. And then honestly, what we believe, it's the value of your emotional connection. Are you making deposits? Are you making more emotional deposits, or are you making more withdrawals? It's that simple. Branding is that simple. We talk about value, right? So I just went to Webster. Mr. Webster talks about value. Here's the definition of value: the monetary worth of something or market price. Another example is a fair return or equivalent in goods, services, or money exchanged for something. Another one is relative worth, utility, or importance, a good value at the price. Value. What's something worth? What's the equivalent in the marketplace when goods or services are exchanged? What's your value? At home, I try to have a lot of value. If I'm not picking up after myself, if I'm not cleaning up after myself with the dishes or the laundry, my value goes down. My market value at home is going down if I'm not helping out around the house. If I'm not contributing to the income, if I'm not contributing to the emotional connection with our kids and having date nights with my wife, my value goes down if I'm not doing those things. Those are all deposits that I'm making. Think about that when it comes to your business, your career. Are you giving more? Are you taking? Are you waiting for a raise? If you're in a W-2 job and you have a salary, are you waiting for a raise? Work harder than what you get paid for. Work harder than what you get paid for. There's a famous quote that I think most of us have heard, but I think this is great when it comes to branding. People ask like, "Oh, I want to build a brand," right? There's a famous quote that I share with my kids all the times: "Is you pick up trophies at competitions, but you earn them at practice." You pick up trophies at competitions, but you earn them at practice. And I think that's so good. It has to do with your brand. What are you doing to build your brand when no one's watching? I want to build my brand. Or what's my brand today? Well, my brand today is everything that I put into it 3, 6, 12 months ago. What's my brand going to be a year from now? It's whatever I put into it 3, 6, 9, 12 months from today. I have a buddy who's an insurance agent, and he always says, Brad, when's the best time to buy insurance? Well, it's in the past. Why? You can't buy insurance when you need it. You can't build your brand when you need it. Building your brand takes time, right? We referenced the crock pot in the microwave a couple episodes ago, and that same thing. Building your brand takes time. You want to build your brand in a crock pot. You don't want to build your brand in a microwave. Just because I make a post or I'm an influencer, what have you done? What have you done for other people? Remember Zig, if you help enough other people get what they want, that takes time. And I think branding in the same way is all about the relationships that you have with your sphere, your database, we call it your list of relationships. What does that look like? How do you intentionally grow that over time? What are you doing right now to intentionally grow your brand? Another way we've just talked about brand is value. Your value with your relationship. What's your value like with your relationships? I know I'm talking to student athletes right here. If you want to make money with NIL, name, image, and likeness, you actually have to go do something. You have to be really good at your sport. You have to have a large following on social media. Well, how do you get a large following? Provide good content. Add value. The more value you add, the more connections you make, the more engagement you have, the more relationships. That helps you establish NIL, name, image, and likeness. So go back to the episode for a second. I'm kind of getting off topic here because I just want to talk to student athletes about growing their brand, their name, image, and likeness. But I want to talk to business owners. I want to talk to small business owners. I want to talk about people who have goals. I want to talk to people who just want to be a good mom, good dad, good auntie, good uncle. It takes branding. If you think about it out of context, not just from a business. Branding is the emotional connection you have with other people. Are you a giver or a taker? But understanding NIL, James breaks down kind of the ABCs of NIL, which was really interesting, offering insights and essentials. He talks about agents, like having somebody in your corner to represent you. I'm a big fan of that. I got a bunch of coaches in my life. I've always had coaches. I believe we created this podcast. I never told you this. But I believe that we created this podcast because I've had so many coaches in my life, and it's gotten me where I am. And I believe everybody should have a coach. And if you can't afford a coach, if you don't know where to go, if you don't know where to turn, I'm your virtual coach. Student of the game. We are your virtual coach on how to, just win at the game of life. That's what we're here to do. And you do that through relationships. NIL right now there's opportunities to partner with small business. So reach out to me, especially with Don's for Fort Wayne here in Indiana with Purdue Fort Wayne. They do a great job of community service. And I know we talked about that on the podcast. Repping the Dons right here at IPFW. I got my jersey on. A lot of times these student athletes have the opportunity to build their brand through partnerships. Whether you're a small business and you're serving, ice cream or Italian ice or pizza, food is, if you own a restaurant, that's a really, really good way you can give back and have some student athletes. Internships, I think there's some really good opportunities for internships as well. But let's dive into, really the 5 things that James talked about. I'm just going to high level these real quick. Go back and listen to the episode if you want to know more about NIL specifically. And then right after this, if you keep listening, I've got kind of how NIL helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. But James talked about the 5 things. 5 main points was just introducing NIL. What is it? Kind of a deep dive into what is it. Then he went to the ABCs of NIL. Talked about legal considerations for NIL as far as the importance of having proper contracts and what this means. Small businesses in NIL, some of the benefits of partnering with the student athletes, and then NIL's broader impact. It's more than just financial. It creates mentorship. It creates opportunities. There's a lot of these student athletes that are getting their first job, out of college because of the relationships that they're building through name, image, and likeness. So when it comes to branding, let's transition this to a small business and entrepreneur conversation here. When it comes to branding, how do you brand, right? Like the question is, how are you branding yourself? Well, I believe my personal brand, if I'm just going to tell you right here, I'm not getting paid for this. Like, I'm actually paying. Like, I talked to my guy yesterday who runs my podcast. I'm paying to put this free content out for you. I'm not selling you anything. My goal is, through the lessons that I've learned that's helped me get to where I am today, I'm going to share those, and hopefully you can benefit from them. But when we talk about branding for small business, the first thing is consistency. Consistency. What's your brand? Is it consistent? I believe that people choose to work with Noll Team Real Estate because of character and competence. That's the blueprint for our success. So I'm just going to tell you, character and competence. Characters, can I trust you? Competence, are you good at what you do? Nobody needs to know that we're number one. Nobody needs to know how many trophies and plaques we have. Nobody needs to know how many designations we have. If that's how you sell yourself, awesome. We don't brand ourselves that way. Our branding has to do with character and competence. Can I trust you? And are you good at what you do? I post a lot of stuff about my family. I post a lot of stuff about my kids. You kind of just through social media, you kind of know who I am as a person. I do that intentionally so that I can build trust. You can get to know me before I even meet you. And I'm okay with that, because that trust needs to be established. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to give a little bit. I'm going to show you who we are. We're going to do goofy things. My kids like to do some TikToks. I'll act crazy on TikTok and do a dance just so that my kids have a good time and laugh. And you can see that, hey, we're just a normal family trying to, put one foot in front of the other and build relationships and try to figure out life together. But I believe a big piece of that is consistency. One of my things I've been teaching the kids is what's called post and ghost. When it comes to consistency, do not post and ghost. If we're talking specifically about social media, posting and ghosting is when you make a post and then all of a sudden you get all these comments on there and then you don't say anything. You don't engage with your audience. I don't think that's how it works. Consistency is showing up and being who you are. But then it also is, think about posting and ghosting. When you post and people comment and you don't say anything, that's like walking into a party, telling somebody how your day was, and then walking away. How rude is that? Like, are you kidding me? You know how many posts I see where, it's business professionals or something. It's like, hey, I just sold a house in an hour. Look at me. And then there's some comments and then they don't re-engage. Or, hey, I've got this new product or this new service, and there's a bunch of comments and then they don't re-engage. I see that all the time. That's posting and ghosting. You're not building consistency with your brand. You're not building consistency with the message that you have. And then that leads to my next point, is authenticity. Authenticity. Genuine brands that reflect the true values of a business tend to build deeper relationships with their customers. Authentic, character and competence, remember? So being authentic. People buy from people. If I know I just referenced this, but if you're on my real estate team, if you join Noll Team Real Estate, if you're on Noll Team Real Estate, you better not post, call me. Call me. Hey, I just sold this house. Call me. Call me is like the laziest way to engage with your audience. Like, no, don't tell people to call me. I'm actually going to be authentic, and I'm going to say, hey, we just had this client, this is what happened, and we had this challenge, and this is what we did to overcome it. And I'm just going to share with you kind of the inside information on how you can win if you're going through this problem too. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be authentic about it. People buy from people. This is human to human interaction. And I really believe that your brand has to be authentic, especially as a small business. You have to be authentic. You have to let people know, like, hey, I'm struggling. Like, what are you doing, to win right now? That's just being authentic and being real. I think customer experience is paramount. Whether it's NIL or whether you're a small business, the customer experience is paramount. If I'm donating money to a collective for name, image, and likeness, I want to make sure my customer experience is great. If I'm the student athlete, I want to make sure that business is getting what they want. I'm in the real estate business. I want my customer experience to be great. We want to eradicate mediocre real estate transactions. That's our mission. And the customer experience is paramount. You got to remember that. Honestly, we don't exist if we don't have clients. We don't exist if we don't have customers. And so it's our goal just to help them make confident home buying and selling decisions. We want confident homeowners. And so that's all about building that customer experience. I think storytelling is a big one. When you talk about your brand, storytelling is a big one. There's something called narrative transportation. And narrative transportation is when there's a story or a movie or an example. If you position yourself as the hero, nobody can see themselves in that story because that's your story. But when you position yourself as the guide, okay, I'm the guide and my customer is the hero. That's called narrative transportation. They can now see themselves in that story. When you post about, I just sold a house in a day, or I just sold a car, or I sold 27 cars this month, like that's cool. That's awesome. There's some competency piece that people want to know you're good at what you do. Okay. So I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying if that's all you do, you're losing a huge part of the market. When you're storytelling, this is from Donald Miller, by the way. I love Uncle Don. But when you're storytelling, you position yourself as the guide. I'm here to help. So Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, they lived in a really big home and they didn't like cleaning it anymore. They actually really enjoyed traveling and they got a home in another part of the country. And so we helped them downsize to a home that fit their lifestyle. If you have somebody that you know that would rather travel than clean their home, we would love helping them out too. You see, that's being the guide. That's not saying, hey, we just sold this home. We sold it for $30,000 over asking price in 2 days and we had 3 offers. Now I'm the hero. Don't be the hero, be the guide when you're storytelling. It's all part of building your brand. I don't know about you. I could talk about this all day, but for the sake of keeping this a solo episode, I don't want to turn this into a long one. I think here's the conclusion. Advancing your brand through relationship building isn't just about marketing. It's about genuinely connecting with people and creating a network of trust so that there's mutual benefit. One of our core values is win together. Mutual benefit is win together. And by focusing on authentic engagement and community involvement, delivering consistent value like we just talked about, I think small businesses can create a powerful brand, a powerful presence that resonates deeply with customers, that stand the test of time. That stand the test of time. I mean, the more valuable you are, the longer that will last. I actually think I want to do this. James and I talked about this and collaborating. I want to bring my kids on. Maybe you have a kid who has some questions on NIL. I want to get some kids, like some student athletes, on a podcast and ask James some questions. I talked to my girls last night and, a couple questions that they had is like, do you have to have a manager, right? Like if you're a high school student, do you have to have a manager if you're a high school student athlete? All great questions. Another great question is, how do you get paid? If my kids want to promote this pizza shop, how do they get paid? Do they get compensated? Can you still make money if you're not an elite Division I athlete? Like, can you make money if you don't have a huge social media following? Like, these are all questions that kids have today. And James is a great resource. So if you have a student athlete right now, if you have somebody that, if you're part of a program and you want to know more about name, image, and likeness, I highly recommend getting a hold of James O'Connor. You can find him online with Barrett and McNagny here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Just a couple fun facts that I found as I was researching this. This was as of last year or early this year. The top 10 highest paid student athletes based on NIL valuations, early 2024. Number 1, Bronny James, $5.9 million. Number 2, Livy Dunn, LSU Gymnastics, $3.4 million. Number 3, Arch Manning, $2.9 million. Number 4, Caleb Williams, $2.6 million. Number 5, Bo Nix, $1.7 million. Number 6, Angel Reese, $1.7 million. Just met Angel. She's really nice, by the way. Media makes her out to be a bad person. She was really nice. Shout out to Dave for that introduction. Number 7, Drake May, $1.5 million. Number 8, Travis Hunter, 1.5. Shedeur Sanders at number 9, 1.4 million, and Marvin Harrison Jr., number 10, at 1.3 million. I don't know about you guys. College athletes being valued at millions, multi-millions, that's bananas. You don't have to be Bronny James. You don't have to be Livy Dunn or Arch Manning or even Angel Reese. But we all have a brand. We all have value that we can offer our community. I'll go back to how I started this podcast. 2 of my favorite authors. Solomon said, a good name is more desirable than great riches. Man, what are you known for? What's your brand? What are you known for? And then another author, Matthew, says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds. It's bigger than yourself, man. I'm telling you. And then let's not forget Zig. You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. We talk about student of the game. It's mastering the fundamentals, falling in love with practice. It's all the details. It's all the behind the scenes. It's all the unseen work so that ultimately you can win at the game of life. And in order to do that, you got to believe relationships win. I wore my college basketball jersey today as a reminder that there are ripple effects to building a brand. There are ripple effects to doing hard things. There are ripple effects to going out and creating community with people, but ultimately creating value. What value, my question to you is, what value are you creating for other people today? Are you making more deposits, or are you making more withdrawals in the relationships that you have? And the last thing we want to talk about is your brand. What is your brand? We believe your brand, my brand, our brand is the emotional connection you have with your relationships. The emotional connection you have with your relationships. You're listening to this. I hope I've invested emotionally into you. I hope you're getting something from this. I hope my brand is one of generosity. I hope my brand is one of coaching. I hope my brand is leadership. But it's character and competence. Can I trust you, and are you good at what you do? And so what brand are you building? That's the question today. What brand are you building? Name, image, and likeness is for college athletes. It's for getting paid. It's a new world we're living in when it comes to college athletics. But name, image, and likeness has been around for centuries. What value are you providing the relationships in your life? Make it a great day.